Down is like you make some kind of mistakes and you know you got to get your head right. We've all been there. You know, you all know that at least you got 10 games, and sometimes game management could be a big factor. And speaking of big factors, it's Macwood going against Assault. Two titans of the Fortnite comp going head toe-to-toe here out on the island as Macwood gets a nice little drop hit right there, but he only has 100 HP, no shield in his inventory. So he's going to do his best to get inside and look for that key dink as much as possible, get that green light before he goes into a box take technique. 31, still on those shields for Macwood, still now down to 62 HP. Sundown, what is Macwood going? Never mind! Man, it just looked like Assault was not 100% sure what happened there, and Macwood was able to sneaky that nice wall take and gets that nice window edit. But a big play there for Macwood, getting a very strong competitor out of this lobby.
One thing Macwood does incredibly well is timing, being able to take the wall, know when he can peek in, know when somebody's going to be vulnerable, maybe when they're reloading or checking a side or flipping between their builds in order to just gain the smallest of advantages, and then pushing it relentlessly. You know, he's going to feel good taking out one of the controller players. He's been very vocal about that now, and getting straight to the fishing and trying to get as many of the fish along this path as possible, which is why this area gets so contested. But check the bottom right hand corner. He needs to be careful. The bait comes out right away, and that's what happens when you get caught on the outside without a harpoon. You're so incredibly vulnerable, and sitting at only 112 health, you would assume, hey, I want a 1v1 on the complete edge of the map. I'm good. There's no one else here. I can go back over to the side. I can hit anything I want, and we're set. But nope, take it apart. Ooh, yeah. Rogue Shark picks up his lucky too, and right away over at the agency.
Yeah, and we kind of saw Shark with the drum gun previously, so I guess he made that rotation himself all the way over there, being super aggressive, looking for elims, knowing that they're worth 4 points, and we saw how successful in the open qualifiers having the drum gun in your repertory is such a big factor here, and this is what I'm talking about. This is the aggression that we saw. We wondered, how did the drum gun end up in Lazy Lake? Well, this is your answer here, Sundown. It is Shark, who's been going at a fast pace, looking for as many eliminations as possible.
And you can see why he opted to actually throw the slurpfish over and away. He's trying to get them towards the bush so he can get as many of the fishing holes as possible and then assess the situation, figure out what he wants to take. You have Uzi and Nosh going 1v1 over here on the side, and you can see Nosh is hurt. Boga's new duo partner getting abused right here as Uzi, very strong, very calculated early game player. Again, somebody who's been around and particularly performs well and trends to be a solos player, getting tagged up a little bit there as we see a number of players fighting over the grotto. Scope trying to get on the backside. You know he's not going to be leaving the grotto anytime soon. He was born here. Uzi has to go aggressive. He will take out, otherwise doesn't have time for that. It's 10 seconds. You have to play aggressive. Scope knows that. Scope's just going to dip, not opting to take the tough fight and making the right decision. Uzi goes down.
That's the tough, man. Even though it's a low tick storm, it's just enough to just get Uzi out. It was one of the, I tweeted out, who do you think is going to walk away in the solos, and Uzi was one of the favorites. As we're on board here with Anonymous 72. I wonder who this could be, Sundown. I wonder.
Oh, I don't know. It looks like somebody playing in anonymous mode, man.
I know, with the number 72. I mean, we already had Mitro snake his way in and be a pre-fire, not preferred, pre-fire kid. So a lot of our invitation people and all of our automatic qualifier players being very sneaky with their name tags.
Yeah, I mean, it's been hours since I've seen him play. I mean, maybe even days.
Hours.
Potentially like 3 days.
I mean,
yeah.
A lot of tomfoolery, as I always say, you know?
Yeah, I mean, his gameplay is looking a little slick, so that might be Team Liquid's 72 hours, you know, popping in saying, you know what, I'll try this FNCS Invitational thing. I'll try this Fortnite thing, see what these guys got going on. He's got no problem checking around here as, you know, just trying to peek around the box, hearing lots of footsteps as, again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 people hanging around Salty Springs down there.
Salty Springs is going to be a great place to be if you like to be on Team Liquid. As Anonymous here, you know, this is what Team Liquid likes to do. I mean, they're very methodical in their gameplay. We saw that in the early set of Old School, I think, Chapter 1, which is a strange thing to say in Chapter 1, where they kind of like figure out this early strats and meta of kind of like recycling natural cover and things of that sort and doing all these things. So it's very fun to see 72, as you do see, has old Reggie down beneath him as well. So it's kind of like a mutual agreement here. It's like, hey man, I'm not going to mess with you, don't mess with me. We're just going to be cool for a minute here. Just starting off with this Fortnite Invitational with 4 points there. So no doubt I expect him to be a little bit higher on the leaderboard, considering that, you know, you got to shake the rust off a little bit. But I think it's going to be some good things here for 72 hours. Oh, excuse me, Anonymous 72.
Yeah, man, as we get another angle, we can see Polarized, Canada, SC Cups and Precisions all hanging around. Zypha of Sentinels being picked off right there as Precisions. A nice little timely push. Unfortunately, Zypha not covering all 4 sides. Always have to make sure you're boxed up on the angles. These players are good enough to hit those headshots.
It's interesting. I mean, we're noticing I guess the difference between solos, duos, and trios, and even squads. I always mention this at any time, even if you're playing public lobbies. In solos, you have to make sure you have to cover all 360 angles. And I know you may say, I know, Sancho, I know that's a pretty obvious statement, but it's true. As you can see, you lull yourself into a thing where you kind of relax, and that's what caught Sentinel, the player right there, in the Zypha right in the backside. But you know, is this something you kind of get more sense of the more reps you get as you go on for the day? You know, just like when Thomas HG back in the EU scene, he caught so many people rotating freely about. No doubt those players will learn their lesson. Maybe I should not be running out in the open with a heavy sniper in play.
No, I mean, pretty much, particularly in NE East, again, we've seen even over the first 2 games we've watched today, people have a propensity to run to the middle of the zone. They want to be safe. They want to not get caught rotating. They don't want to be in whatever ridiculous tomfoolery, as you said it, goes on at the edge of these storm circles, because that's where all the reckless stuff happens. Let's get to the middle of the zone with the players who also want to safely rotate. When that happens, everyone will chill. However, if you peak in this situation, every single one of these players is good enough and talented enough. This is the top 600 or so players in NA East, and they're able to hit their shots, as Precisions points out right there. Another 44 tag coming out at a max range headshot.
It's interesting, though, if an aggressive player wanted to be in this lobby as like someone like an Aiden or something like that, no doubt the grappler would be a factor to kind of push a box and to get in that situation. You know, all these kind of one-buys that are kind of out in the open, Sundown, do you see an opportunity for someone who wants to put the pedal to the metal to rack up elims, or is it just more of a, like you mentioned before, NA East just being a little bit chill about things?
So generally, that isn't going to happen, I feel like, in the early games. I feel like you see the absolute pedal to the metal when you're getting a difference of people getting desperate and feeling like they need to play aggressive versus somebody who is getting one of their quote-unquote W key games, a game where you just hold forward and fight everyone going. If somebody gets one of those rolling and all of a sudden you have more resources and you have 2 or 3 times the loadout of people early on, then yes, but that doesn't, like, you don't generally push for one of those in your first 1 or 2 games, right? Those tend to be something where you're looking at a 3rd or 4th one, or you're looking at a timing and you're going for it. So I think right now we're going to continue to see more of the same, where until about the 5th circle, it's probably going to chill here. We'll probably see another maybe like 5 to 8 people or so be eliminated. But until then, it's going to take us a while to get to that top 50 phase, and then everything is going to break down, and you'll see all the rotations. And what I honestly feel like is the real kind of skill expression of Fortnite, kind of the late game rotations, where you're making a lot of the decisions, as Rogue Shark makes a good decision there to get a 33 tag.
33 tag, and that's almost like the green light for him to keep going here. He's going to try to fin his way closer and closer. Kind of loses them a little bit and just decides that's a great opportunity to stop that person from rotating into their slice of the pie and move in, and he's just going to follow this other player as well. And then noticing that no one's focusing on this other player, that means, hey, I have a free rotation as well. He's going to protect himself just a little bit. Now we have one of these circles that's around in old school Salty Springs, returning from Chapter 1 here back for Chapter 2. And it's interesting. It's one of the, like, a secondary landing spot. If you do not, like we kind of mentioned in the interview with Benji, where Benji says like, hey, I don't like landing at the henchman hideouts. I like landing in other places like the old school retail rows. So it's another opportunity for a player to at least get in the familiar area, get the necessary loot and materials to be competitive, because it's actually near center, and center will always be in your best case, and that's where this zone is heading, right, Sundown?
And as I said, I'm a huge fan, so all of my solo paths when I'm playing and like actually trying to take the game seriously, and I'm grinding out Champions League points since I'm not allowed to play in tournaments and stuff, it's literally get the loot path, get to 100, and then get to center of zone, and then wait. Because that gives you the most opportunities to continue play for the late game. You're able to find people who aren't doing that on their rotation path. However, that ends up taking a lot of patience and discipline to do over and over again, particularly in a 10-game series, as we're starting to see now. Slightly more people are getting dropped out, but pretty much everyone has rotated in, and since we started talking about it, 0 people have gone down, which means Storm Surge, that threshold that will kind of punish too passive a play in order to kind of keep people moving and keep the game on its course, will kick in effect before Circle 5, and 10 players will need to drop. That threshold is 50, but right now this player being pressured and chosen in a quick little flank. It's casual by its casual.
It's interesting to point out as well, for those people at home, when you play that style that Sundown is talking about, you kind of roll with whatever you land with, and that's why casual, that was a huge impact elimination right there, picking up a shotgun upgrade, going from a common tack all the way up to an epic pump shotgun. So that is such a big elimination for him right there, and that's the kind of thing that you have to go with. When I remember playing with Hogman right back in the day, and Hogman being a duo partner, Hogman being one of the competitors here today, Hogman was like, yo man, if you're gonna play this way and play center, you have to roll with whatever loot you have, and sometimes you could walk away being in shambles, but that is how sometimes the cookie crumbles. And if you could pick up a big elim right there like we saw casual did, that's gonna be a big factor to reward your patience. But we're on board here with Bully Don't Care, no doubt gonna look for Bully plays with only 3 elims to his back pocket, sitting with some decent builds, but does have that high valuable launch pad. As we see, the circle is gonna put outside of Salty Springs, so this is an opportunity to get some in tags, and Shark goes down, and I think Bully Don't Care was gonna be very happy to see Midas's drum gun. He's gonna do his best to kind of get it, and there it is. Bully Don't Care, no doubt, is gonna have a bully of a time there with Midas's drum gun there, Sundown.
And I'm sure he did care about that one. Bully being an incredibly strong controller player, super aggressive here, so that drum gun going to be that much more efficient with him. He's going to make the push to try and get in here and try and close the gap now, because you can see just how many players are around here. But again, immediately going to work. He knows he can be aggro here. And the one thing I want to cover right away about competitive Fortnite, if you get an elimination and you go over, notice how these players, they cover the loot drop right away and they overbuild. They extend because they know that player will generally have enough mats, and they know if they're going in, somebody else is going to be looking at them. So very good job from Bully, making sure he covers himself up. Does take some additional tags there on the rotation, but he looks like he got the drum gun, got to zone, is going to have enough to get back to 100, and honestly, he's in a good situation because we now have our top 50, so no Storm Surge going to be in play this game most likely. I doubt we'll see a 30 tick on it as we head into the half and half zone.
Precision, we saw him earlier in the cast putting down some precision strikes onto the server, and that he's doing right there with a big 2-hit right there, and gets casual. Now he's going to keep going again with a 66 dink, gets a 33. Now he has the green light to keep up the pressure. Has to be careful though. There, that's a nice little build right there to protect himself as he's now tunneling in, looking for the elim that he earned. Maybe the Storm gets off this elimination. There it is, Sundown. A nice 2-piece right there. And Precision is actually doing very well, setting himself up for a nice run here for the rest of the way. And he does have that 50-50, that half in, half out. And you mentioned it right there. He's going to extend out a little bit, and now he has the opportunity to play some different angles as 72 sitting on top right here. But now we're on board with Kamui.
And Kamui sitting on a pretty solid loadout, has tons of extra shield, a decent amount of builds, only 1/3 way through, and also has that rocket launcher, looking to find a pick there. Unfortunately, player is able to just reset that build real quick. Relatively predictable. As soon as you hear a rocket launcher go out, you want to be able to cover up any edited holes. You can see walking through the window, and then going to phase himself through here, trying to find an angle. some good spray coming out. You can see him tracking him very well. But unfortunately, that player just going to be able to dip out. Now, keep an eye on the bottom right-hand corner. You want to see where those triangles are. The ones who are going to be forced to rotate into the zone are the ones you want to keep your eye on as Kamui continues to just kind of build out his space and look for a pick. And there it is. Great shot onto Rondo.
Epic pump, getting that big dog hit right there, using that clever edit to get that right-hand cam peek. And Kamui doing a great job here with 26. He's no doubt setting himself up for a great run the rest of the way. Usually when you have that much, you're well and half the way at least when qualifying for the top 300. And Sundown points out as everyone rotated in, and Kamui gets another one right there now with 30. And out goes Snake. And taking a look right now at Kamui, he has himself at the low ground, but right now, no doubt feeling himself, and we do see Box right in front and center of the screen, another competitor from our open qualifier. And Box himself is having a great run with 32 points here, Sundown.
32 points, already sitting on 1 elim this game as well. And in a pretty good position. You can see that white circle represents where the zone will go to, and when you're in the later game competitives, it moves out, forcing the lobby to move around, making it a little less about just where the circle goes to and a little more about how well you can use your resources to get from point A to point B. And Box is in a fantastic position to wait, take shots, and then rotate, because this will pretty much be the last opportunity to use the launch pad he has. So this is where he's going to get aggressive, as we see Hornet taking out L Damien S. So tons of old names coming back, names we haven't seen in a hot minute in the Fortnite. And I lied, there's a Storm Surge threshold popping up right now as 4 players need to go down.
And Box finished actually first place in day 1 in the NA East Open with 310 points, had 3 victory royales, proving that if you qualify, you get yourself into these lobbies, you could show out and make a name for yourself here at the FNCS Invitational, as he's doing his best here to kind of pick at this person sitting here at the layer that he's feeling very comfortable with. And more of aggression coming out from Box. Continuing on, knowing that day 1 he can show out and he gets precision out of the server. Sundown, it's amazing to see these qualifying players actually showing out today.
Yeah, and that was actually really strong by Box. What he was doing that was impressive there is using the epic tack and how much pressure it puts onto walls in order to get quick replaces. You can see he's constantly hitting those and then trying to get a combination of something else in. He's able to get the cone in that box, but he wants to be on every wall and is looking to shoot right after he gets it. He's not looking to reset and then go back in. He wants to get forward and wants to take the shots, as we now have our top 25. Again, those thresholds get that much more valuable when you're higher up, as Box hits 2 great 36 tags directly in front of him. And what he's going to do is camp the backside of the storm and continue looking to find people who are rotating late. He wants to find the flopper players in the storm because he knows they're there, but the cost of that is exposing
as well will get for us. It's a double kill here from Slash. Might actually do a little bit of a cheeky run out. 10 seconds left, and time is now actually running out for United with a 2v2 situation. The Diffuser still has to manage to get onto his side, which will come in. Onto Slash is going to be yet again the threat onto him, but Oxygen will win the round as the Diffuser will not be planted, and somehow United lose a 2v4.
Still trying to go forward.
Somehow indeed, that round was lost. That should definitely not have been the case. It was a 4-2 situation, but
Bed on Legacy will pick that one up, as it is really just a party on the low ground. The high ground is only like 2 surfaces up.
It's insane, man. It's all coming down. Box was vibing. He tried to survive, but it's D-Roller here. We're on board with him with 43 points. Polarized gets an elimination on Kamui. Kamui's run is over for this server, but you said it yourself. It's like the low ground is just so much traffic, and the high ground, I think they're all kind of doing it. I think that's Kanada right there. Still vibing, doing his thing that he does best. Looking at the high ground, Sundown, it looks like a battle between Hornets. Hornets doing his best with 48 elims here, trying to get the retake. Doesn't have a lot of utility and not that many builds to stay in this fight. I'm expecting him to drop down into old builds. As you see, there is that drop down. So now Hornet has very strong impact weapons. He has to make sure that he is very efficient with his builds here, considering he's run all out. There's no need for efficiency if you're at 0.
I was just about to say, yes, he will be very efficient. In fact, 100% efficient. He will miss and place every build perfectly, but he misses the one shot he needs to hit as Polarized picks out Ved. D-Roller gets Hornet and then repositions around the outside. Only 11 builds to his name. Pretty sure it's still Canada up on the high ground. Not sure who is in between as D-Roller works the low ground. 55 points from him so far. 3 elims. But he wants to get that first place here. Needs to be careful. Still only 7 builds, but we know there's a player on the other side. That's Canada making the flopper play. Polarized, though, is getting a free high ground, and he has the health advantage. D-Roller is on 90. Canada has already committed to his flopper play, whereas Polarized is completely uncontested. This is going to come down to a full circle close, only 12 seconds left. And as I say that, I lied. Canada goes up with the grappler and picks up Polarized. Canada needs to make a play, though. He has to go unless he has more floppers. No more floppers there. D-Roller runs out into the storm, knowing Canada's low, and he finds it. Great flag from D-Roller to punish Canada. But ultimately, well played from all of them. A great job from the top 3 to get them out of the match and rocket them up the scoreboard for now.
Game number 2 did not disappoint either. Now, obviously, it slowed down a little bit there. I think it got also a little bit congested. But, you know, Sancho, I think that's just kind of the name of the game, you know?
As they say in the Fortnite community, it's the way of the road, brother, way of the road. So, yeah, no doubt. I mean, the congestion was there, but it just shows you that the calm, cool collectedness of those high-caliber players, you get into that situation, you know what to do. Surprisingly, Kanata was deep inside the storm, but he was able to take the high ground, almost walked away with the victory royale. But shout out to D-Roller for rolling through that end game right there.
Yeah, and Canada was someone that I believe you pointed out to me, Sundown, kind of yesterday before we kind of started the broadcast and whatnot. Talking about things, you know, do you maybe want to talk about him a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, me and Shadowwager had a relatively heated discussion over whether or not we thought he'd be successful. My stance on it was if there was going to be a day where he'd be able to really show off, I think today would be the day out of all of them, considering his kind of the level of skill disparity and his ability to play there. So far, true.
All right, well, when we come back, more FNCS Invitational, so stay tuned. What's going on, Fortnite fam? Welcome back to the FNCS Invitational. I'm your host, Zeke, and joining us, we've got Monster Deface and Shy Wager, who will be taking us through games 3 and 4. Gentlemen, your quick thoughts. What have you thought of the first 2 games of NA East? I'm coming to you first, Monster Deface.
Hey, things are kicking up, man. Things are kicking up. Shy and I were waiting in the green room, just kind of hanging out, watching the games. I mean, you know, it's NA East. NA East is always getting fired.
Yeah, absolutely. The expectations basically lived up to. I'm just looking for anything new, anything different that we haven't seen yet. I'm still waiting.
Awesome. All right, well, guys, we are getting ready prepared. I'm sorry. There we go. Let's see if this works. There we go. All right, guys, we're getting ready to head into the next set of games in just a moment. We'll first take a look at the standings and see how things are going for players. In first place, we've got Agers with 101 points, 17 eliminations to his name. Guys, this is a pretty strong start here.
I mean, Agers has more elims on, you know, this starter game 1 and 2 than like Tohaj coming in halfway into the EU. He finished somewhere near the top 10. So, playstyles maybe coming out today, Shia?
Yeah, I mean, everyone needs to be an individual now. I'm pretty sure Agers is on and off the hot seat of Innocence as well. Both these guys trying to prove who is the better half of the duo right now. It just looks like he's out of the gate. One person I want to shout out myself as well is Gandhi, who has had some trouble getting towards that top spot in non-team game modes, kind of an IGL boomer of sorts. But right now, 12th place off of a win, 7 elims. Nice to see.
You see AV up there. We talk about players leaving their counterpart duos. Hey, there's a lot of people that got to make a name for themselves. Remember, guys, top 300 move on. Anyone right now with 50, 60, 70 points, they're looking pretty good for the first day. Can they hold out? This is a big competition, big weekend.
Yeah, I mean, Kanada's whole solo legacy, making sure he breaks the curse of winning a game and then not doing much after the fact. Stretch no longer playing with Booga, looking to find his own home, his own pathway up in solos, possibly also towards another duo, trio, or squad after the fact. So we'll see what's up. I mean, everything here in NA East is all about building your own brand and story, and there's lots of prizes here, Zeke, that people are fighting for as well.
That's right, dudes. Don't forget, this is just week 1 prizing. Every single week these guys are participating. They will have a shot at prize money. Here is the breakdown per region. You'll like to see it. Now, of course, we got to talk about it. The prize money's great, but getting on to move on in the top 300 into week 2, and then the top 80 into grand finals. That's what a lot of these players are here for. The very best of the best from FNCS competitions from before are all facing off. It is absolutely incredible. Of course, gentlemen, we're getting ready. Game number 3 is on its way. But I gotta know, Monster, what are you hoping to see as we get into these games?
Yeah, I definitely want to see some more Clicks, man. Clicks was a favorite coming in. I mean, for myself, for a lot of fans at home. We saw Benji really step up to the plate as a favorite of EU. Clicks is definitely a favorite of NA East. And so far, he's had a quiet, a very dormant first half. Or not really half just yet, right? A third. We're about a third of the way in. Yeah. Plenty of games on the table. Yeah, Shio, plenty of games on the table. But Clicks. We saw Kanata up there. We see Agers. We see Shark, right? There's a couple names that we're very familiar with. Clicks is missing in the equation right now.
I mean, another person also missing who was there in the opens, Finesse, who we saw so much from. The big 30 bomb dropped with the drum gun. Not really being seen too much from him today, but it'll be cool to see either way, Zeke.
That's right, dudes. Well, it's time to take us into game number 3. So we're heading on in with Monster Deface and Shy Wager.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back with some more Fortnite action. And like we said, we're picking things right back up here in the NA East region. It's Thieves we're looking at. I was reading names and pronouncing regions at the same time. It's getting real.
I mean, hey, East and West have always had that little bit of a rivalry, so we'll always have both of them tossed and turned. I believe all these, or a lot of these players as well, have had experiences playing in both. And right now, that old West classic format of pushing people as fast as possible, getting those elims quick. I mean, Thieves will embody that immediately off of spawn. Get Cape Cod straight up to himself, this island down below, or at least the right side, still one more person left over at the house. And it's been a while since we've seen Thieves kind of perform at this level of competition, Monster.
And not only that, just these areas of the map I feel like are untapped as far as coverage goes. You don't really get to float around these unnamed POIs, let alone the southern portion of the map. So interesting to see some early game here from some different familiar names. We're looking at Annihilator, getting into a little skirmish here. Quite an early game battle. Only a burst rifle in his loadout right now. 40 materials. I mean, the clock's ticking here. So right now you see Annihilator. And he's trying to get up to height here. He's trying to see if he can connect. This player already has shields and it's all 58s. He hits every shot, somehow wins the engagement.
I mean, it's all about getting up top the angle, or from top below, the angle that you need to hit as many headshots as possible. Yeah, you might not have a shotgun in your inventory, but a burst rifle close range can be as surprising and sometimes as lethal as well if you connect. That's exactly what Annihilator does. Reps true to his name, and then moves on to the rest of his loot path and the rest of the fight. You mentioned it though, Monster. These are some of the back-end drops that we don't actually get to see a POV of, and a lot of the time you have long drawn-out fights with loot that's not really complete yet. And sometimes you'll be, like Leo TJ, having big numbers in your inventory in terms of power, a golden RPG, a shotgun, and a rifle to kind of complement each other, but you won't have the ammunition needed, so every single shot needs to count. Although he does have 7 rockets. Saving those for the end portion of the game might be a little bit more important. Using as many as he needs to right now, yes, it's 2 possible eliminations, but he has to be careful. The first one already shot out.
That is true, and I mean, what an interesting kind of position to put himself in. He had the hill already. He could have used a little bit of element of surprise, but just a pixel in the distance he wants to fight. This guy's going to use his launch pad. I mean, good play, to be honest. You don't want to stick back here. Someone who's willing to get this close and give up all the positioning. Yeah, you know he wants to get in the box and play to the benefit of the shotgun. And that's it. Close quarter engagement. TJ finds himself a nice little elim.
I think you can tell, too, by that launch pad, the player he was fighting was definitely weak. So going on the hunt, trying to see where Smuggy went, but unfortunately picking the wrong direction. These guys will now both be on their own separate pathways to try to get towards that mid-game. Now more towards a central type of POI, a type of situation we see game to game. It's a Misty Meadows breakdown with Destroy versus Susscript, and we saw Sus actually get in to multiple boxes, get a lot of eliminations, but then kind of get in over his head a lot of the times as well, spending a little bit too much time from fight to fight. And facing off against Destroy, I mean, this is not an open person that qualified. This is an invitee. This is a competitor. We see land shots time after time. Has that aim assist to use as well, so we'll see the controller going to be raining full on true in this fight if he gets online.
Yeah, and players like Destroy don't necessarily hard grind comp, right? They're in the box fights all day long. They're in those just PvP kind of scenarios, those creative game modes. That's their version of Fortnite fun. That's their version of the grind of Fortnite. Always kind of interesting to see these creative warriors and whatnot jump into the ring with competitive veterans. And look, he's setting up to possibly jump out and just go for the flush play. This is going to lead him right into the hands of the player that was here. It's Susscript. I mean, he tries to go. Oh my gosh. Is there a better way to put it other than he's going to play to his benefit? He's going to get close. He just did that.
I mean, yeah, it looked like he was on the back foot the whole time, had a game plan, and even with every single build claimed and an open edit and the drop with the shotgun, you just can't stop an SMG close up in a box piloted by a controller.
Well, that's going to wrap up Susscript as he goes back to the lobby. Here's Azers, who's off to a good start here in the first third of the games. Nice little loadout, clearly has control of the agency. You can tell by the no eliminations and, of course, the mythic weapon in the loadout here. He's on the prowl, though, already kind of cutting across the field. Frenzy Farms is the target in hand, and there's a couple of little players here I can see. Might be a little engagement, maybe a path crossing here. All he has to do is glance to his right, and there's someone just so nearby. He doesn't even realize it just yet.
This game is probably going to be the insight and the pathway to how Agers got the top spot earlier on in the competition. 36 points right now, looking for the break-in with the drum gun. Does it start? As it opens all over again? It just might be. Drum gun not needed, but the beam's still there, close range. Agers not missing a single shot, either on builds or on bodies. Picks up his first to get his game rolling.
Clean little edit, too. Great control of the builds, the boxes. Now remember, he's looking at the distance here. You see the metal kind of building out, so that's a clear indicator. There's more players nearby. obviously by the hustle, by the play, by the push right now. He's looking to score points. He wants to score big here. Oh no, it's Sis Lucky and Vivid, 2 veterans of the farms now. And oh, he's setting up the same classic. We see this all the time. Jump gun players love to do it. You just jump in your box. He set the ramp boost. They're off to it.
Right now, Ager's being smart, going to go for a higher position before getting this fight started. Still has the option of that purple AR that he can use to rain some shots down from high above, and he does do that, but at the same time doesn't actually connect with anything. So right now, not really wasted time, still in a good position. He can basically survey the whole map and pick his next target. I think, though, he might just look downwards and picks his Lucky.
That's true. I mean, you saw Vivid kind of back off there, so that's the indicator. Hey, whoever was in this house is still here. Him having height, having the good vision of the field, he knows now it's basically a 1v1. So notice the control right now. Throws the cone down first, making sure he's taking the floors here. All he needs is a little wind, a little bit of information of where this player's at, and that's going to spell doom for Sis Lucky, who's in the house. He's not moving at all right now. He's not even looking around at all, just looking at the pink crosshair. It's just there.
I mean, everything he's doing right now as well is just out of pure confidence and just wanting more elimination points. If you take a look at his loadout, it's literally full with some of the best items you could have in every single class of both shotgun, mythic items, and ARs. He has full shields as well, 2 launch pads to boot, full mats. He can basically just play full position right now, but just due to the format of, pushing to placement the lobby as fast as possible and racking up eliminations, he'll be on the hunt from box to box and be at big risk because he has such a good loadout. If he just thinks about it for a second, if he gets a little bit hesitant, he could throw his whole fight. He has to stay calm, focused, secure, and just in that same mindset of, I'm not set, I'm not ready, I still need more.
Only a couple zones you could take that real aggro in those clean 1v1s too. It's zone 1 and 2. After zone 4, 5, things really slow down. The stalemate begins to happen unless Storm Surge decides otherwise. So these are his opportunities to really find these elims and take the most advantage of the drum gun in the 1v1s. Granted, most players have, the opportunity or will likely be very healthy. It's still very, very much in his favor to take these fights early on before he gets any later into the competition. And looks like he finds someone here who's off by themselves. Talk about lining up the shot. It's going to be a nice little 35 here. And here goes the fight. It's going to commence right now. It's the kind of engagement he was looking for. A good old-fashioned 1v1 out in the open. Check the drum gun pressure. Check the setup right now. He's trying to get control of this fight here, Shayo.
He's still going for it. On the right side, you can't really escape, even if you have a 1x3 box. Ager's is still on the wall, straight into opening an edit to find some type of way to look in. A freeze frame as we capture the last moment of his opponent. Ager's in the box. You can leave it up to mystery, but it'll always be solved. It'll be him on top with an emote as well. And that's just the way he's going to be playing this game, Monster.
Yeah, I mean, Ager's got to peek into his opponent's soul for a second there as they were eye to eye, face to face with the barrel of the shotgun. He wasn't scared at all. He had the drum gun. He knew he had the advantage in every right here. Here's Destroy, who's going to lose his advantage of the moment right now. As this player is pushing him, he's going to lose his shield. Can he get one off? This is a sign of someone who is a little timid right now. Most pro players, if someone gets beamed and immediately goes on defense, instead of putting up the counter offense, well, then took that look at that as an opportunity to push. So you see, he's getting pushed kind of hard right now instead of counter-fighting. He's kind of in his own head right here. And the box jump comes in. The no-scope, he doesn't connect with that, but the shotguns are going to find its mark. And that's 2 to the face of Kui. And he goes down now.
And when it's a little bit more of an inexperienced player, yeah, that defensiveness is seen as a weakness. And that player can also never actually act off of what the offensive player is doing, the player on the hunt. When it's Destroy, he understands exactly where the player is moving. He's tracking his tendencies. How aggro is this person getting? Which wall do I want to let him into? He pinpoints it, allows the person in as a bait, as a trap, and then ends the fight. Although you feel like you're ahead at all times, it's actually Destroy's game you're playing, and it's a game that he is not going to lose.
Wait a second here. Umvi's going to get shot off in the distance. He's looking to exchange fights. Little does he know, it's multiple players who are giving him the pressure right now. Can he win this one engagement before getting shot in the back? He is. That's going to be just enough siphon. Remember, he has the heals and now finding the minis. This is really good for him. And there goes the additional shots now, which were off to the north.
And that first Elam we saw Destroy actually rain down with that SMG close range. Maybe just a sneak peek as to how every single fight is going to be going this game. We saw Azers with the drum gun. We're seeing UNV just get down dirty with the TAC close range as well. We're not seeing many long range beams be the success rate of that final full elimination. It's just these close range box to box mid game fights that you can't expect coming out from some of the top players.
We have the zone to worry about here. Destroy kind of sitting parked up. Veterans like Tabs are also nearby. Just take a look at the players pushing in here, guys. This is going to be quite the rotation for all these guys. You do have the river to kind of play into. They can always jump in, speed things up, let them go down.
And one thing about this river as well, just the way the zone's moving from south all the way up to north, there are some, like the one we see right now, that help a lot of players in accelerating their movement, less chances for fights. So all these players who are getting these fights done earlier actually had an advantage, taking away points from others who will not get to do so. Everyone will be in their bases faster. As we go further north, though, a lot of these rivers start to work against players. It'll be harder to rotate from south to north. Once we get towards Craggy, these zones, if you're lost in low ground, could just prove fatal. You might have no say in what to do afterwards. Still, pressure all around the map.
All kinds of fights going on right now. Here's Big 60 on the PC. Saw Aguilar's E11 off to the side right there. Or E11's Aguilar, I should say it that way.
I was like, hey, Aguilar made some promotions up in there, man. Like,
yeah, he took over. Don't take part. But here's Big 60. He's in a tight situation right now. Not only just loot-wise in general, not looking too hot, but the fact that he only has 40 mediums, which means he has 10 to reload with, guys. Remember, it counts to 30 in the actual rifle here. So a lot of pressure being put on from him, but not quite getting anything in return for it. At least that's what I can kind of gather from the situation.
I mean, it's an interesting situation as well because although the loadout looks absolutely shambles, like his mats are still really good. So these are some of the places where you really have to start making those hard decisions. Do you want to take these big risks? It's like Agers who had all that big loot still looking for points. Like, you can still make endgame, but then how successful will you be with a great tack, a fishing rod, and as you said, Monster, literally just one clip left over in your gun? I mean, I guess 60 is going to just fully get into shambles mode, not even build, play for that sneaky positioning we saw back in Europe time and time before.
Wow.
Gets aim hack Jack off the damage he's did before as well, and now has more bullets to use and an upgrade on rarity of guns as well.
Sometimes it just goes that way. I mean, it all works out. He's going to find the shotgun upgrade like you mentioned there. And hey, he's back in it. We definitely know he's got max mats now, so good little kind of catch-up for him. Probably a little bailout, honestly, puts him in a much better situation. Here's Azers. We know is sitting kind of pretty right now at the top of the board somewhere. 44 points right now. This game here. Congestion starting to pile up on the server. The southern part, Steamy, is just being run over, overtaken by all these new goons that are moving in and breaking down structures in there. See where this zone's going to push. In 4 seconds, it'll reveal itself. Oh, gosh, Shayo, it actually comes their way. That's kind of lucky.
Yeah, I mean, a little bit of that heat kind of taking off the reactors, so a bunch of people will already be flying, looking for a way to get in, but just notice water already being a part of things. When people are a little bit comfortable as well, it'll start instant box fights and bases around that were so tense before in positioning. Agers will be the active agent looking for tags, and there it is. Smuggy, we saw him early game escape a fight, but this time no launch pad to use. He gets taken out, and one more bounty to claim for the hunt of Agers.
That predator kind of spirit right there in Azers, just sensing weakness in the players nearby. You can't run from the hounds. Well played to Azers. He's going to find himself a big Elam right there. Remember, that material that he gathers from that Elam in its own is going to set him up so lovely coming into this endgame. It's probably going to be the key ingredient to success. Here's Nick A30, one of the invitees to the competition today. He's got himself a little respectable 4 points here. Let's see what he can do with it. This is obviously a good friend of ours in the channel. Okay, going with the aggressive heavy sniper play. And this is his control. He's got this box right here. He's going to go on and reel up. See if he's going to do the ramp boost with the heavy play. Maybe not. Just kind of hanging out right now, gathering information. He is also safe in the zone. And, I mean, just looking at the map right now, 49 players remaining coming into Zone 5. This is definitely becoming quite stacked. Players are getting right on top of one another.
I mean, yeah, we talk about hunters versus the hunted in this entire forest. We also have the storyline of content creators versus pros versus opens. And right now, looks like Nick 830 repping the band of those content creators, but looking like a pro himself. Proper positioning, every shot landing as well, taking out Agalor all the way over at another build where Agers, ROG, and Scar are awaiting. And he's going to be using his own pressure as well to, or I think the pressure on the back of Yeek to look for more shots in as well. But you talk about Nick a little bit, I feel like he has the mechanics and the brain, and he's been practicing for moments like this. He can definitely hang out with the top of the competition.
I mean, you also have players like Sway right there. Talking about players who are just crazy, kind of on a mechanical sense, but maybe don't have all the competitive experience as some others. I mean, I want to see how Sway's going to do here as well. These are all guys that are in somewhat of the same field. Sway did qualify through the Open just off of Elam's alone. He really did pop off. You can see the pressure's going down. The lobby's starting to kind of settle out and feel out one another. Anyone who is in fresh builds is becoming the target of the AR fires. Players are finding opportunities to start dumping. This is what happens when layers upon layers of players stack on top of one another. The only way to then kick things off is to start the AR fire. Really start teasing away here. Half in, half out is going to draw its way up to the northern side of the zone, and most players are going to find themselves inside of it. Let's see what kind of dynamic this is going to introduce to the game here, because it's only becoming more and more tense as players have to play smarter and smarter here. This is solos.
And we saw Stretch make a slick and quick rotation after knowing exactly where that zone will go. Sway as well, trying to add to his ongoing repertoire of placements in these competitive formats, will be trapped up in the zone already using floppers. We saw Kiwis as well, held up in a box, who's already in zone, but Sway's path will be slightly different. No launch pad available. We'll be looking for one to recycle. Trying to find his way in, as we already kind of seem like we're playing an endgame moving zone with all these players trying to move in. Gets a nice pickup on the backside of the zone as well, a player who was kind of unaware of what was going on around him. This is what happens when one person is feeling the pressure while the other person is crumbling by it and on it as well. Sway still looking for a way in. I think now is going to be having an easy path all the way through. No one really on this layer. This is one of the effects of rotating in late. You get to pick and choose where to go. Recycle people's builds as well, just at the cost of maybe being surprised by someone baiting their own.
It's true. I did get to review some of Sway in the end game. I mean, the weight of the end game is definitely something he struggles with. Jackie's going to eat a sniper bullet as he opens up the window box here. And guess who it is? It's Azer's jumping back in another box. This time it's Stowe who's on the other side of the barrel right now. All of these players are going to have to cut across. This zone is literally sitting on the water. I don't know what's going to happen come Storm Wave 8, but I know 7 right now is going to be a struggle once it hits that beach line right there. Here's Azers, though. He's got a long rotate to make. He's kind of peeking out up above, trying to see if he can set up the launch pad right here. What we're following right now is proper in-game tactics. We're using launch pads when it matters most. This is such a crucial zone, too, to really keep your material count high and pretty. I mean, he doesn't have much. As aggressive as he has been, it's just not enough. He needs to claim the loot as UNV gets taken out right there. And Azers is still on the hunt. Can he find more players? Can he find the material?
His heat-seeking senses are activated because he's looking every single way around him to find something. Now, once again, moving mid-ground like we saw Stretch do before. Just an instant, decisive switch between elimination and movement and repositioning. Right now, still on hunt mode. Once he's done, moving towards the zone, chasing someone else as they build out a path for him. Close and personal, it's Lazar that goes down, taking away top names from the competition like they're nothing. Agers is melting through this entire lobby. 5 eliminations, looking for even more. The beams there does not let this individual Storms get out of the storm himself. Still trapping more on the backside. This drum gun and AR combination is so hard to just relieve pressure from.
And this is the place you want it. Now it's time to really ramp up and put the gun to use here. When it's all weak players trying to rotate right now. Let's see as he's trying to just jump in any box that he can. It's all wipes, it's all shield. He's taking everything through. He's walking right through it. That player goes down. It's Nobu Beef and now it's time to put the shotgun to use in the AR. That's the thing about running all these medium weapons. He's got the caliber, he's got the fire. There goes the counter edit. Good defense by the opponent, though, who is trying to run for his life. It's Commandant. Commandment is going to fall here, and Agers is on fire right now. 8 eliminations, Shio. He's still going. He's still cooking in the mid-ground.
I mean, it looks like he's just in his playhouse playing with some action figures, choosing who to pick and fall right onto his hands. Over here, the last flopper coming in from Stowe, actually, in the storm. Finds a nice falling down elimination. A quick reaction needed there, possibly a pre-fire as well to find that. Then once again gets surprised door to door, has 9 minis available, 2 full stacks, wants to go for that material refresh if he can, is fighting for it, goes for another shot. Does get a little bit of damage done, but has to come back down if he wants that full elimination. There it is. It's Stretch that ends up finding the end of his run there. Cannot rotate his way out of that one. Now on low ground, RPGs available. Not too many materials. That's to land a shot. Doesn't. Puts an RPG into the hands of Dusty all the way on low, but he has to climb way high as Agers controls the server.
Agers is still on top right now. And remember, that Elam that he caught earlier was just enough to get him up to some material to hold this high ground, and now it's all recycling on back. He's just got all this builds to work off of right now. All he has to do is pick and choose these battles right now, put that pressure down and start cracking open the players. This is one of the risks of having height right now without a pierce-through weapon. As the grappler comes up, the grappler's been the name of the game today, Shio. They've been yoinking height left and right, and Agers uses this opportunity to say, all right, well, I guess I'm going to go down or something and probably go for fights, go for some points.
I mean, yeah, the guarantee all the way up high was that Victory Royale and those placements time and time again. But with the grappler there, him not having any materials, he doesn't have to hesitate whatsoever to go for this final 1v1 down below, possibly the 1v2 even, if he finds another. And that's huge points. An 8-point swing there. Agers going right into the face of Take, takes him out. And now it's just all up to him. Possible heal game with a med kit actually won't be able to get through and done. He doesn't need to either. Just walks into another box, doesn't find the final Elam. Yellows the floor. It's Dusty, who had full shields, surviving off of absolute momentum. Now doesn't get to see the end of days. Can Agers turn this entire momentous performance into a Victory Royale is the question on everyone's minds. Back into another box. It's his home, but there's a new visitor. It's Niddle that takes away the one from Agers, but still, what a game. A high amount of eliminations, a grappler. It's everything you want to see out of NA East.
It was well played for Niddle too, man. The grappler coming in on top, but I love Agers' kind of mentality there to go for points instead in the end game.
Yeah, guys, that was an absolutely crazy game. I mean, I guess that it kind of explains why Agers was there at the top. You know, a lot of things that I want to, you know, not only... It's fine that he didn't get the Victory Royale, right? Because it's just a few points different. Placing second is still massive, especially when he had a performance like that. You know, I love that you were kind of talking shy that he was using those close quarter combat, heavy fire rate weapons, you know, just drum gunning every possible opponent he could. And that ended up getting him that second place. Why don't you guys talk me back through this game? You know, what are some things you guys noticed from this game that are like really going to get you excited about the next game?
I think it was the temperament on Agers right there. Noticing that, all right, first place is probably out of my reach now, but I'm already top 5, top 3. If I just stay in the running, let's get more points. Like, literally, let's just go for more points. He's playing into the format. He's playing into the elims. He jumps down with no hesitation. And I mean, pulling off the med kit, that was just kind of lucky in its own, finding it right there. But the fact that he turned eliminations from what would have been his victory otherwise was kind of cool. I think that was really smart of Agers.
Yeah, I mean, Agers, Stowe, and Stretch, all these guys just showed me that NA East finally knows their positions with what the loadouts they have and where they are making their bases. So we saw at the half and half zone right before it, Stretch didn't actually, you know, have zone, but knew that's exactly what he needed to further his game. Put all his resources towards moving. Stowe, at the end of it, had a choice to chase down Stretch or stay up top, get his materials, chose to go for those points. We're not seeing hesitation anymore, right? Agers knows he has the equipment to box fight time and time again, stops going for long range beams when he doesn't need to, knows he can't get high ground, decides to just take out the last 2 people, get those 8 before it's done. So these guys are finally learning how to accrue points, play the format rather than just play the game, and that's what's going to set them apart from everyone else trying to get towards the #1 spot.
I like that breakdown, Shai. Pretty straightforward. Now, obviously, we have the mythic weapons on the table, right? And, you know, we've seen these things come into a lot of success for a lot of these players.
But my biggest question is, like, why are not more people contesting these mythic POIs, right? Like, why was Adrius allowed to walk at the start of the game uncontested, Monster?
I think for the sake of this kind of weekend in its own, when you take a scramble of hundreds of players and throw them into random queues, you don't really know who's your lobby's going to end up with. For all we know, next game, Sweaty Sands could have 7 people. Super unlikely, super unnormal on their custom 6-game kind of format, but this format does lead up for a little randomness.
There you go. Well, it's time to get into game number 4 of NAE. So, gentlemen, take us in on the battle bus.
We're jumping right back into it, Shayo, as things are kicking off here. It's the 4th game that we're showcasing for the NA East region. It's Scope this time around, who we're checking in with. What do you think about Scope as a player on their solo? There's a lot of buzz around this player right now.
I mean, Scoped, you know, can't shy away from it whatsoever. Him and Tfue dominant all throughout duos and scrims on the ladder at the end of the day as well. Had some trouble with some contestation up at the grotto. This is one of the first times we'll get to see this POI, and it's business as usual. Doesn't matter the mode when it comes to Scoped, always clutching out these early game fights. He was kind of the Elim heavy individual of that duo, always in a position to clutch off of the calls and the positions Tfue kind of put him in. He kind of found his own identity, his own play style. On the other side of things, this is another situation. Avery now kind of switched up on who was playing with Cash Cups, but I believe it was him and Haz who kind of controlled the shark at all times. This time him by himself. Won't have the synergy, but will still have the lethal precision of using his loadout, using exactly what he's strong with, and using his mind as well to position well on these fights. The unique type of capabilities he's had, like, let's not forget also, one of the winners of Squads FNCS. He knows how it feels like to be at the top, how to play formats and get there. We'll see him try to replicate that once again in the Invitational. Right now, early game fight, unfortunately, a little bit of a caster's curse. He goes down to Nitro 2R. Kind of a play on the RR, I believe, who will have that grappler, the vault card, and Shark all to himself.
The big come up for him indeed. Here's back to Scopes, who's fighting his way out of the grotto right now. He's got a little bit of pressure from the henchman. He's going to need to jump into the disguise booth here. As you can see, Assault Ice is right up above. That's the guy who's giving him pressure right now. Scopes already has control of the Mythic Drum Gun and the Volt key card. As long as he doesn't give up this kind of area down here, he should be okay.
And this is a classic matchup that we saw in duos as well. And obviously, Scope came out a little bit on top, or majorly on top in that one. We'll see